All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to our Meet the Vendor webinar series, where we're going all over the world and meeting some amazing software teams and people. Today from Norway, we've got Elias and Steinar, and they're from Kantega, and they're going to tell us about Kantega SSO. So take it away.
Thank you, Michael. My name is Elias. I'm the partner manager at Kantega SSO. And I'm going to share my screen now and give you a brief presentation about our add-on. And after that, Steinar will give a demonstration of our product and we can delve into the goods.
Sounds good.
Yeah, so now I have probably been able to share my screen. That's always exciting. Yeah, so what I'm going to talk about today is Enterprise SSO in the Atlassian suite. So first, briefly about us. We are a vendor in Atlassian, and we are from Norway. We have been in developing Atlassian apps since 2014, I think. It started as an internal project in our consulting company, Kantega, and we were divided as a sub-company, Kantega SSO, in 2018. But we still are working really closely with our mother company. And yeah, our SSO is our expertise. Our value proposition is that we deliver effortless login for everyone from everywhere. So wherever you are or whoever you are, we want to give a really smooth login solution. And for the user, we want to be an invisible solution. And we're just in the background. The user logs in and they're going to use Atlassian as they like. We deliver several various SSO protocols that work for different use cases. So you have Kerberos, which is the main or the first solution we developed. That is the ultimate login experience. The user just logs into their Microsoft computer and they're also logged into Jira and Confluence. And we have SAML and OpenID Connect, which are more federated, which means that you can share identities across domains. OpenID Connect is the most modern solution we support, which is also really efficient with mobile apps. A lot of users these days could also want to log into the Atlassian suite through their mobile. And we also offer users logging in through the old way in the host app or using API tokens if they want to integrate other services or API solutions. In addition to this, we offer user provisioning, which we'll get back into later. What we like to say is that we offer enterprise level complexity. So large enterprises usually have a large user directory. Maybe they have 500 users or 10,000 users. And these users will have a lot of different needs. So you might have some users who are sitting in-house. You have some people who are traveling and want to access Atlassian while on an airport or at a hotel. And you can also have student interns or consultants who are accessing Atlassian or Jira for a brief period of time, and other services that want to integrate or authenticate with Jira. And all these have different needs and different use cases, and all these are something we try to support. In addition, we scale really well. So when a company grows, or if they have a merger or something, their user base might change drastically. And that's also something that we offer support for to make the transition go smoothly, to grow their complexity and to add more rules to offer users from a different directory to access Jira. And also, if your company has a restrictive network topology or have a firewall or something that's really strict, we still offer tests and services to make sure that SSO works smoothly for your users. And to show how our SSO works, I want to bring us into a case. We have this company, WebCorp, and everyone at WebCorp needs to access Jira. WebCorp is a hypothetical software company. They work with web development and sales and operations, a lot of stuff. And they use Jira in their daily operations. And so we want to meet an employee at the WebCorp. This is Bob. Bob works at the sales department of WebCorp, and he forgot his password again. This is really problematic for WebCorp, and they're looking for a solution to reduce their efforts and time wasting with passwords. Jira is a really valuable asset for WebCorp. They use it for sales activities and to track their software projects and to make sure that they are on track. And most of their employees need to access Jira. So even though a lot of their people want to access Jira, including Bob, sometimes Bob struggles with remembering his password, or his password expires. So that's the base case for WebCorp. They have a lot of users and the passwords are just all over the place. They're not really sure what to do. Bob forgot his password, and that's a really bummer for WebCorp. Ian at IT is not really happy, because this means a lot of work for him. Sven, the security guy, is really mad. He sees that the password has been written on a note or something like that, and this is not something that he wants to see. And in general, a lot of people are affected by Bob forgetting his password, and this is something that WebCorp really wants to handle in some way. So to make Jira more easily accessible to Bob, WebCorp looks for a solution at Marketplace, and what they find is Kantega SSO. With Kantega SSO, they use Kerberos, like I mentioned briefly previously. Then Bob just has to log into his computer, and then Kantega single sign-on forwards his credentials to Jira, and he's just simply logged into Jira as he's logging into his computer. This is a lot easier for Bob. He doesn't have to remember a lot of different passwords, and he's luckily able to remember the one password to his computer. But we're still not done. So sometimes Bob works remotely, sometimes he's on travel. Now the world is starting to open up again after a long pandemic. And when he's away, it's not so easy to access the Active Directory that is needed to sign into Kerberos, because Kerberos only works on the local internet zone. To solve this, WebCorp uses another feature at Kantega SSO. In addition to using Kerberos, they also set up an Azure AD login with OpenID Connect. And now the users that are on-prem, they're simply logged in with Kerberos like they used to. And the users that are away, they will be redirected to Azure AD and use the cloud login instead. And now Bob can still access Jira. It's a bit different, but still he just has to enter his identity and he's good to go. And then WebCorp encounters still more problems. So what if they want to cooperate with another firm? And this other firm, let's say Kantega, our mother company, which is a consulting company, they want access to Jira to cooperate on one software project. What then? They have their own user database. WebCorp doesn't want to create new users for all of their consultants, and they do not want to make entries for them in their Active Directory. luckily, the external company also has an Azure AD instance. But through Kantega SSO, you can integrate both these instances into Jira. So when Bob logs in, he is redirected from our redirect engine, and he's sent to WebCorp's Azure AD, and he's logged in based on that he has a WebCorp address. Meanwhile, Elias, who is with the external company, when she enters her email into Jira, she's sent to their Azure AD and then back to Jira after she's confirmed their identity on that side. So now a lot of different users simply go to Jira, they're redirected to something they know, Azure AD, they write their password, and then they're back to Jira and can get started and get to work. And then there's the question, what if we have even more stuff going on in our environment? What if we have more complexity and more use cases that we need to solve? This is a figure that we made to just illustrate that if you have a lot of different activities and processes going on in your company, Kantega SSO is there to solve your use case. We have a lot of well-tailored features for a lot of different cases, and using us, you can do authentication, you can transform usernames, and you can do user management as well. You can transform your users and send them from the Azure AD to Jira, and you can also make sure that users have no other way to log into Jira than through the SSO engine. So after using Kantega SSO, Bob is happy because he doesn't forget his password all the time and he doesn't get a lot of hassle. And also teammates are now happy because they don't have to waste their time with passwords. And Sven, security guy, is happy because now the users only have one digital identity to manage. It's their primary identity, which they use to log into the AD. And that's a lot safer. And they have reduced a lot of the risk. So that's just briefly the case we have. And now my colleague Steinar is going to show you what this would mean in our app. If WebCorp uses Jira and they use Azure AD, Kerberos, and you have an external company which is going to cooperate with them.
Cool, thanks.
Yes, thank you, Elias. We have this saying in Norway, jumping after some famous ski jumper, which kind of indicates that when someone has done some extraordinary presentation or something, then doing the same just after him is really hard. So I felt you had a good presentation, Jira. Yeah. Now, Elias. So it's really good. I haven't heard it quite the same way before, but I liked the way you summed up our product. We, as you say, have this product, and the only kind of main advantage with the product is easy logging in and also kind of administrating how to do the login work. And this I showed you just 2 seconds ago was Mark Miller, some user on my machine that just logged into Jira. So how it works is that every time he kind of wants to log in, he just opens his browser, goes to the Jira URL, and then automatically is logged in. This is, in this instance, is what we call Kerberos login, which is a way of using the identity on the desktop machine. It's mainly kind of integrated into Windows, but you can also make it work on both Mac and Linux. I myself is running on the Mac, and it works quite well also there. And yeah, it just logs you in. It's how it works. Behind the scenes or inside the product, most guys on Jira admin is used to this manage apps area, and this is where you, of course, will find Kantega SSO as installed app. And at the moment, we are working on version 5.0.0, which is our next main version. So this is kind of first showing off this outside of the company. So it's really breathtaking, I would say.
Thank you. We've got an exclusive on our webinar series here.
Yeah, we're just on the brink of giving our partners kind of first look on it, getting you a version where you can test it out and see how it works. It's for the kind of trained eye, you will see that these buttons have been a little lighter blue. For instance, we had a darker blue before, and there are lots of other changes in the product. For instance, a fully new built identity provider wizard, which we will get back to in a moment. On top here, you can see different kind of technologies being configured. On the common tab, there are lots of these pages with different switches for every, whatever need you would have related to logging in. First of all, I would like to show you the Kerberos tab, which is the Windows mainly technology. And the first you get on this overview page is how it indicates that it apparently is configured correctly. And then we also have this test, which is kind of the most complex part of the Kerberos part of the product, which does analysis on every kind of possible setup and problem that might occur. There might be problems because we do here do some analysis against the Active Directory server. We get what we call that key tab, which is kind of the public key for the Kerberos communication. And we also do an analysis on what is coming in via the browser from my desktop machine. So we kind of compare and see that all these things fit, and also check that my user is allowed to logging in. And then the green light kind of indicates that everything is fine. So I could do, for instance, if I do destroy what we call a Kerberos ticket, which kind of indicates something is incorrect on my logging in, then it, for instance, will give a red light here saying that my browser didn't send any Kerberos ticket. And then that is explained, and the user is, or the admin is helped to solving that as best as we can. We have this web server test, which have some deeper analysis, giving help for the admin to solve this. So this is kind of much of what we have in the product related to helping out making things work. Also, we have, of course, all of these kind of switches for setting it up exactly how you would like. We recently added, for instance, disable Kerberos for some users. That was a feature we just added a couple of weeks ago because the customer requested it. And the main reason for that is that if you have some users that only should be allowed to use two-factor authentication against the Azure AD, for instance, or against Google or whatever, then you disable Kerberos for them, because Kerberos is kind of too convenient. It's some security admin might consider it too easy. If you just leave your computer without locking the screen, someone can log in being you in Jira, and then they could avoid that by disabling this in the setup. And then they might require users to use two-factor against some of the other identity providers. Kerberos is the one, and we have, as I briefly, or Elias briefly said, you have all these other technologies to do logging in. And this is our testing environment. So we have lots of different identity providers set up. They are either using SAML or OpenID Connect protocol. And this new fresh wizard is taking you through setting up a new one. So this is kind of what you will meet if you select to set up a new identity provider to do your login. And these are just a brief extract of the most kind of famous or used cloud-based, typically identity providers, and you could do any other type you would like. If I click here, then you will first of all get some questions about how users are provisioned, which means how will the user exist in Jira after logging in. And then you could say user already exists. That means either you created them manually, or you have some sort of internal directory where you synchronize them in some magic way, or you have an active directory connected as a user directory, or whatever way they appear in the product. You could do what we call just-in-time provisioning. Then we do the creation of the user at the moment when they first log in. And then we use part of their identity from their login and just create them on the fly. Or we have this related technology called SCIM, which is a synchronization technology for user directories, kind of external user directories. So all external providers supporting SCIM could get users synchronized into Jira using Kantega single sign-on. We have this as a kind of relevant technology for getting users to be present when you log in with the identity provider. So SCIM is a standard that we have implemented support for. So then let's say just at this case, the users already exist, and then we are asked to check or select what kind of technology we would like, and then we just follow the steps to get everything sorted out. Both these technologies have kind of standardized steps on what they typically are requiring for both parties to prepare. In this setup, we take the party of the user, what call it, the kind of client in a way, and then of course the identity, the relying party. That's true, and then the RP, and then the identity provider is the one assuring or making the login happen. So yeah, that's briefly how to set up SAML or OpenID Connect. I did from before just prepare this WebCorp setup of an Azure AD just by running the I think it was this, OpenID Connect technology. I could have done any one. Azure AD supports both, and many of the big IDP supports both technologies, and then you can just select what you would like. What happens is that if I kind of disable, if I remove my Kerberos ticket, my Kerberos identity, or in a way makes it not do Kerberos, then I have the opportunity of instead doing the WebCorp OpenID Connect login. Then I'm redirected to Azure, and then I have the opportunity of let's see, I have this what Roberto, was that the username, Elias? I couldn't remember at the moment. I have it over. Roberto.
Elias.
He had the name of, We just created this user yesterday, so I'm not that familiar with him, but I could do logging in with that username into Azure AD. I think I remember my password. So this could, in certain cases, require a password, a little bit depending on how you set up your Azure AD. But of course, the main advantage here is that I use my Azure AD login that typically the organization has set up for all kinds of logins, typically also my login on my desktop machine. And then I'm let into the product. At this moment, we can see that for some reason I ended up in the Jira service desk, and that is typically an indication that my Bob user does not have the rights to use Jira as a regular user, so it's only let into the Jira service desk, and that is typically an indication on his rights in Jira. Let's see, and if I did go to the user setup, I could see that my Bob user did not have rights. So here he is, and he only has no groups attached. And then what I could do is I can go to the identity provider setup. I could also do what we call a test, in this case similar to the Kerberos, where I could run a test on the login, and then what happens is that I get some recordings on all the details of the logging in. Let's see, I have to log out first just to get the test running. This is very, very kind of relevant for the admin to use during setup to make everything work correctly. And if I run the test as a user, logging in as Roberto again, then there is recorded a test for the admin to analyze what is going on behind the scenes when logging in. And then I go back to the admin pages, see the test results. I can see something about the user found, and can see all attributes, all details coming from Azure AD during the login. And I can see some setting up on what kind of username is wanted to use as the username for Jira. You could do anything that kind of is, it's the best is if it's unique, some sort of unique key coming into OpenID Connect. And also in my setup at the moment, I had selected just-in-time permissioning, which means the account is created on my first login. And then at the moment, we can see that there are no group details coming from the OpenID Connect response. Azure AD and the others are able to send group information from the other end in a way, from the IDP, and then we could use the group information to giving rights in Jira if you like. Or we do have also features in Kantega single sign-on to add what we call default groups, which means if I give Jira software users to all users logging in, we could also say users including something. So it's really strong how you could set this up, but at least all users logging in will get this right. It meaning, all users will be able to use Jira. And as I mentioned, manage groups and auto create groups. These are features for setting up groups based on what is coming through the logging in identity from Azure AD. So if Azure is telling something about group memberships, there are lots of switches here to map these or add these in Jira on login, which make it possible to have group management externally managed. So now when I go into Azure AD, and I also have to, I already have a session, so it's kind of easy for me logging in. And then we can see I get into regular Jira as a regular user. And that is because when on my first login or on my every login, I will be added to the Jira software users group as a part of the default group setups. And there are all these switches for every kind of case we ever thought of. You mentioned, Elias, the redirect engine. You could do, for instance, what we call known domain mechanism, which means the kind of domain part of your username. So if I did set up what we call known domains for my Bob user, I could do his web this now. What is his username, by the way? Is it this one? Probably. Yes. And then if I did like this, then I could configure that all users coming from this particular domain, Web Corporation on Microsoft.com, should be redirected on their login to the WebCorp login form. And if you have some other identity, you will not be sent there because you don't have a user there. So if I set up like this and yeah, for instance, enabled ADFS mechanism, and this says some warning about they are in a kind of conflict on what rules they have, then I could do yeah, fallback, which means if you don't match any other rules, then this is the one will be selected. I could show you in a moment what happens when I set up these two active identity providers. We have an identity locally on an ADFS, it's a local ADFS, or I could do this WebCorp setup. What happens then is that as long as Kerberos is not happening, I will be asked explicitly to add a username at the login screen, because so far we don't know where to send the user for login. And then I have to give my username, and then it sees and I'm a Web Corporation man, so he sends me to that login form. And if not, I can use my yeah, I think it's like this, use this, then I'm sent to ADFS because that was the fallback. Yeah, and for some reason, Chrome helping me with Mark Miller like this, and then yeah, oh yeah, something incorrect about the setup probably, but it's not important. Thing is, we do take responsibility of kind of sending the users to the correct place for them to easily logging in. And yeah, I could go on for hours and hours, as you understand. So just stop me, please.
Yeah,
Well,
so what you can
on,
see in general is that our testing and diagnostics is really useful when you're configuring different settings. So admins out there will probably know that it's really easy to break a configuration or to break something. And yeah, the login test and in general the feedback you get from the application allows you to be really sure that you know the consequences of the things you're configuring. Michael, please.
Yeah, as he's saying, yeah, thanks for that. It was very, very interesting, and yeah, the amount of switches, as you put it, is incredible. And I don't think Bob, the sales guy, really understands the detail that's required to make sure that he's got a seamless experience. So yeah, no, that was really good. So thank you very much. I think, yeah, to the audience, as you can see, if you want to control your identities, here's an amazing tool. So yeah, look, thanks very much, guys. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we look forward to speaking to you soon.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Cheers.